Hello and welcome to another video. I told myself there were certain subjects I wanted to cover, and in my last video I mentioned a few. Those of you who watched, I appreciate it a lot. Thanks for the comments, thanks for the likes. Please continue, because there are so many subjects I want to discuss and I never get to discuss. And my audio was so shit, so I had to change the XLR cable. This is a whole nother video I want to do explaining. It's all about, all these videos are about my experience with certain things, which may involve streaming, may involve other IT issues, and how I deal with them and what I learned from them. So through my research, so this will include controllers, mics, cameras, PC setups, builds. So today, and two things, I need to get, number one, I need to get used to speaking into my mic, because I'm ruining the audio quality that way because of my settings, my gain settings and my noise gate settings. So I'm going to redo those, and I'm going to do a whole episode, probably a whole video doing that. But today we're discussing AIO. And I also realize I start sentences and I don't finish them. So first is I change the audio in the mic, and second is I need to learn to look in the camera more often, because I'm clearly not, because I'm recording on a different thing. So I either look at myself being recorded or I don't look at the camera. So today I'm going to discuss AIO liquid coolers. I've been super efficient in that I prepared a presentation because I thought that would be really, really cool. So I prepared a presentation. I'm ready for it. I have it ready. I haven't done much in that I just did it, and I'm just going to run with it, and then we're going to discuss, because it helps me. I have a little prop here, because this is really old. So to give you, so in case you guys are looking at it, it's an MSI cooler. I don't have the model, but this is going to come in handy because I really need to explain exactly what it is. Sorry, I shook you now. I really need to explain exactly what went wrong, because this is actually a piece I was working with recently. Okay, so that's the first thing. So let's see if the slideshow will load. Okay, I had to cut it just to make sure the PC is working. So I might have to move my camera position, which is in the top right now, and I will be going in and out of the slideshow. So basically, you're going to see me running through these slides. The slides do not contain all the information, because a lot of it I like to discuss ad hoc and by myself. So I will be swapping out to this view every now and again in order to show you the display, or to talk to the camera and discuss a point at length. Okay, so that'll be the first thing. So here we go. Let's begin the slideshow. So I actually just create the slideshow right now. There might be some errors, but it's mainly I'm more of an off-the-cuff speaker. If you get to know me, I speak through. If you give me one word, I'll explain my whole feeling about it, my experience with it, what it means to me, la 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 la. So I can tell you right now, I don't need a slideshow, but it's more to keep me on track, because I can be jumpy. That's the first thing. Well, that's the thing. So I keep saying first thing. I don't know why. It's a really bad habit I noticed in my life. When you watch your videos, I think people who are better than me at this. I know I'm wearing my "Come with me if you want to lift." Come with me if you want to lift. Listen to me. Here we go. I love Arnold. What a man. Anyway, let's do it. So, AIO liquid coolers. This is just an example of a random cooler. It's not one I bought. I don't know what, I guess it's a Lian Li or something. This could probably be 320 millimeter. I don't know. This will come in handy. A very sour take. And then there's me. Okay, I don't know. I'm debating whether this is one of the cuts that I had for I thought it was too much if I put it on my thumbnail, but let's see. So, AIO coolers. I was going to say a sour story, but a very sour take. So just to explain what it is, we'll be discussing the layout of the presentation. So introduction. So I'll give you the background story now, why I'm making the video, and my personal experience. Then there'll be different kinds of AIO coolers. There are different types. I'd say is more about how they were built and the construction. Installation, which is the most important part, which is why if you're watching this, I'm sure this is, and I'm glad if you check out this video, even if you're just curious, because this is a very simplistic view from someone who's not very savvy. I'm tech savvy, but I'm not very into, as in I don't know the finer details. Okay. And then warning signs and issues that I've noticed and things I would recommend that you keep an eye out for, and conclusion and recommendations, because I want to give you a clear feeling when you walk away from the video of what I think is the safest or best way to do something. And it depends. There are so many variables. See, this is why I need the prompts. Introduction. Let's do it. So I'm not reading just off a script. I'm going to load something up and I'm going to explain. So for example, I'll tell you how this started. This is my cousin's PC build. So I know you'll get why I did it bit by bit is so we don't get distracted by what's on the page. So my cousin, what happened was, my cousin came to me. She has a PC. It's 6+ years old, that's written there. And she had a few issues. And she was complaining, most importantly, about her performance in games. To give you her background, she's younger than me. She's around 20 years old. I wish I was 20. So she's a girl. She's 20 years old. She's not tech savvy. She doesn't care about this stuff, really, to be honest. And I can't blame her. So for me, I would always say, okay, what is important to her? When you're doing a PC repair, I feel, especially because it's not my job. I do it for family, and I build for myself and for family. If I look at my friends' family, I say, what is important to them? That's, I feel, how you can relate to the client, I call them, but to the person whose PC it is. Think, whose PC is this? What are they going to use it for? So in her case, she needs something simple, nothing complicated. Her PC is 6+ years old. So you would say, well, okay, it's quite old, but people have kept their PCs for longer. I think it's a 10th gen i7, might be. So 6+ maybe is correct. I don't know where we are now. We went to 14th, then the Core Ultra series. So about 5 years, 5 to 6 years. So basically we need to do a low budget repair with minimal changing of parts. This comes including the cooler. This comes in, it's important. And another big issue is her case broke. She had this black case. I wish I had a picture of it. A black PC case. The glass at the front was gone. I was not there when it happened. They complained to me about this. She went to the same people who built the PC, not me, it was a shop, and shout out to them. I hate that shop, really. I'm not going to mention them by name, but because it's bad of me to do that. And they promised her a replacement case. She paid the money, or her brother paid the money, her older brother who was doing this for her, who's younger than me still. They're all my cousins, obviously. They paid for the replacement case. As is in business here, I will tell you non-stop. You pay for one thing, you get something else, always. And they gave her a case from a random brand, and they rejected it, said, this is bullshit, we paid for a core circuit, we paid for whatever. So the guys just said, okay, we'll put everything back in your old case. And they left it, and they didn't touch it since then. So for years, can you imagine, she was playing on her PC with the glass broken in the front. PC completely open. So everything, dust inside, anything you can imagine that was wrong. The PC was open from the front. Classic. I wish I had a photo of this. It's hilarious. I have the old case. I think I threw it out somewhere. So biggest thing was moving all of her components to a new case with low budget. So don't spend too much money on the case. Don't spend too much money on parts, hopefully. So if I can make sure every part works, which is where we're going to come into this. And there were performance issues. In terms of the games were not running correctly. Things were happening. So I didn't do much testing in terms of temperatures, which is my mistake, because I thought this is a simple job, which is where I was wrong. So the problems I discovered. So this is so she told me her problem. She was running out of storage for her games. So again, broken PC case, performance, low budget. So we can't spend too much money. Storage issues. She was running out of space for her games. And then the problems I discovered there was a loud whirring noise, which happens a lot, obviously. I discovered that, yes, she had a lot of adware and software, like different sort of software she wasn't using. Her startup was very inefficient when she started up the PC, because she's, again, a young 20-year-old girl. She will obviously, anytime she installs something, she'll say auto start with Windows. So when she loaded up her PC, hundreds of things would just launch at the same time, which she didn't need, which is what I told her. Look, just click on what you want to launch when you want it and close it when you don't want it, especially if you have limited RAM. So I noticed her RAM was low, was being used up. Her CPU was being used up, her CPU frequency. So these were the issues. Her GPU seemed okay, to be honest, even though it was in I think RTX 3070, I don't remember. So things were working well. Most people would say that's an amazing GPU. I think it is. It was, I don't remember actually, but so that was it. And so I made this list of things, and then I decided, okay, let's attack this. What can I do? I went to her house, and I have spare memory, DDR4. This is DDR4. So I said, oh, let me just slap this. She said, you don't need it. You're sure you don't? I said, it's sitting in my storage. So I doubled her memory with 4 sticks, which I don't go, as you know, dual channel for well, it's actually like this. It would be A1, B1. Sorry, this sounds kind of gross, but A1, B1 in these slots. A1, B1 in these slots. This is a rude gesture, an alien ET gesture. And A2, B2 would be in this. Okay. So this is what happened. To tell you a story, I upgraded her RAM, and already it was working well. Also, because she's not a tech savvy person, she had XMP disabled by default, which is normal. Because CPU overclocking with RAM, as you know, you need to enable XMP. If it's instability, you need to change settings. So I enabled XMP, instant speed boost. She's like, this is so good. She continued playing. Weeks passed, and I was like, are you ready? Tell me when you're ready. I'll order the case. And I said, do you want a white case? So she was playing with a black case. I said, look, I prefer white, but even though it gets scratches, but it looks nicer. You'll feel less. She said, yeah, I'm ready. So I took the PC. So this is with the RAM in it. Okay. And her XMP, I tweaked it already. So I took the PC case. No, this is the funny part. I think, no, we're still at her house. And another problem I discovered was these assholes, pardon my language, in the shop, because they were pissed that my cousins got pissed about them giving her the wrong case replacement. So when they threw everything back in her broken PC case, they put all the fans facing one way. They made all the fans exhaust fans. All of them. The side, the under, the top, all exhaust, which means you get negative pressure. And an open front with no glass, it would suck through all of the dust through the entire PC. Anything that's in the room. Anything. Not even... The fans were just thrown in random. They didn't care. They did not care. And this is a big mistake. I will do fan orientation on a different video because of this, which I've spoken at length on stream. Please subscribe to my stream. So, fan orientation was completely wrong. They basically messed up her PC completely, which is annoying. I'm not going to name them. Just be wary. This video is also about being wary. So when I went to her house after fixing the RAM, I removed every single fan from her case, except the radiator ones, because they were already exhausted. They were at the top. I'll explain this. I changed the fans in the right direction to make sure pressure was equal, and I left her with this broken case, but the fans were corrected, which already solved some of her problems. That was still in her house, which is actually down the road. I can point to her house. So it's not a big deal. We live very close. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to put it in a new case. I'm going to save you. I wanted her to decide, do you want a new PC? Ask your mother. Or I will save this PC with I'll buy you a case for $100 and we can try to keep this PC going, since it was fine. So since we're going low budget repair, so in a nutshell, that's how we reached low budget repair. Okay. Next point. Why am I making this video? I agree that information in general is saturated in the market. You see TikTok, well, I am not on TikTok, but you see Instagram Reels. I'm not on Instagram. You see YouTube Shorts. And that's where I learned a lot of my stuff about AOI coolers. Why are liquid coolers such an saturated information? So I feel people are getting confused. They echo the wrong thing in the comments. You can write any comments in this video. I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. And I'm trying to cover a breadth of this, explain how it all fits together. And there is a certain part of AOI liquid coolers, different kinds of them, which I feel are not covered in these videos, including famous people like Jay's 2 Cents, who I learn a lot from him. He did not mention this specifically in a video, but he knows about this for sure. He knows much more than me. I learned a lot from him. So I feel like there's a niche subject which is not covered. I will cover it. No, this is not that I'm doing it for the first time ever. I just don't see it mentioned enough. They mention liquid coolers. They mention orientation, which I will cover, but they do not mention specific nuances of this, which I will cover. This is why I want to do this video. Okay, so information saturation, I will accumulate all of it together. I will update this if I need to. Things might change, who knows? But I will do it according to my personal experience, what my personal knowledge, sorry, fix my posture, my personal experience, my personal knowledge, and what I've learned and from other people. Okay. So my personal experience again. Okay, which is me, my personal experience is me building my PCs, rebuilding PCs from other people. That is my first working on PCs that were not mine, and different orientations, different positions, different kinds of AI coolers. Again, I'll explain later, but spoiler alert, this is a different kind. When I say type, it's more about construction and the different parts. I will cover these parts. I'll explain them briefly now since we're in the introduction, and I don't think I put it in the slide. There are different parts of a cooler, right? There is the what I will call the CPU water block, which is the block that will sit on top of your CPU. Okay, so I'm going to do it like this so you can see. Let's say you see the most common orientation is this. I'm sure you're here on this video. And then this sits on the CPU, correct? So imagine you're looking at it, so it'll be this way. If you're looking at it, you're looking into your PC. Ignore all these wires. This is why I hate this fucking water block, because these are all fan wires. Ignore this. This is irrelevant. There's one that belongs to the pump or the water. Anyway, whatever. Ignore the wires. But this is the top, the radiator, and then you have this, which sits on the CPU. Okay, so imagine that I'm the CPU. It sits on me. And then you have the radiator, which has coolant flowing through this, which gets pumped through onto the CPU and lowers your temp, right? So you have a pump, a motor pump. You have a water. You have a radiator. You have fans, which could be set to intake or exhaust, pushing out, pushing in, pulling, whatever. And then you have the CPU. You have the bracket. So this on the CPU, see the bracket, these sidings, which will screw into the motherboard. Yes. And then you have this metal, the contact plate. We call it the contact plate. I didn't really mention it much in my slideshow because it's not what we're talking about today, but I will cover it. Different AOI coolers. This is the niche nuance which I feel people don't talk about because in my opinion, I'll say it now and I'll go cover the thing. Different AOI coolers need a different designed or different it's very rare now because now there's a modern standard that people are going by, but different AOI coolers need different treatment and position. By treatment, I mean different consideration. I'll go by the first one. Radiator pump motor. This is when the pump motor, so this is, I'm gonna explain. These are all different places that the pump motor can be. The pump motor, I'm gonna use my mouse so you can see. The pump motor, here you can see it on the screen. The pump motor here, in this case, is in the radiator on top of it. So this is an example of that. You see this? See that? That's the circuit board with the pump motor is here. It's here. Okay? This I will say from now, so you don't get confused. This is very rare. This does not happen that often anymore. This is old. Companies used to do this. I don't know why, but they used to do it because this is when AOI coolers were not that, not that popular. I mean, people still use them. So this pump motor is on the radiator itself. This is very rare now. I'm going to repeat. So I'm going to move this cushion. This is very rare now, but it happens apparently still. I don't know. You guys can comment. Put in the comment if you have one or you. So this, again, I should swap to the big thing just to make it very, very clear. So you can see. See, this is in this first, I'm going to call it type of AOI cooler. The pump is in the radiator here, this radiator, okay? And this sits on the CPU. So it's in the radiator, pumping. And what does the pump do? Again, it pumps water through into the cooling block that sits on the CPU. Then the coolant, not water, the liquid, gets heated by the CPU heat. Your processor is pushing the heat, and then it goes into the out. It goes the out tube into here, gets cooled by the radiator, and goes back in. Okay. And the fan air helps to push that through. Okay. So that's the first type. And I'd say it's not, this type doesn't exist as much anymore, but apparently it's still there, which I don't know why. This will come to the end where it's my opinion on things. I would give you my opinion on things. That's the first one. Okay. We're doing good for time when it's a long video, but second, tube pump motor. This I have never seen in person, but apparently it's a thing. This one, the pump motor would be in the tube. So again, I don't know how, I've never seen it, but apparently it's a thing, according to videos I've seen in research. It would be somewhere in the tube. Okay? I've never seen that. I've never seen it. I don't have an example. I have never seen it. Now the last one, which is the most popular one, which is probably your case and most cases, but make sure you check is my point. Check. And now my camera's in the way, so I might as well move my camera. Where is it? Right there. Main cam. Is the water block motor pump, where the pump is in the CPU block. Okay? So, just to be clear, that's not this one. This one is not that. But if it was, it would be in the CPU block. The pump would be inside this piece. Okay? And then that pump would pull the water, the coolant would go into the pump back out at a certain revolutions per minute or RPM, and then it would go all the way around, get cooled, come back, okay? And then you'd have your, what I call a circuit. It's not an electrical circuit, it's what I call a circuit, a flow. We call it a flow. I guess you call it a flow in liquid terms, a flow. So that's the flow. And the pump, just like a pump for anything, a pump for your pool, cleaning water, whatever, okay? Now this is what determines, in my opinion, installation and orientation. Before you buy, things to consider, in my opinion, before you buy. AOI radiators must fit your PC case. So what do I mean? And check orientation and size, thickness, clearance. This is what I mean. You have your PC case. Okay, this is what I mean. You have your PC case. Your rate, and I'm going to do this in a big, because this is really important. You can tell this is a long subject. I'm going to keep the mic next to me because I know I keep losing. So you have your PC case, okay? You have your PC case. In your case, you need to look at all of your components. How big is your motherboard? Is it a full-sized ATX? Now they have the bigger one, I guess is the eATX. And then you have the smaller one, the mini ATX or the ITX. And then you will know what size of cooler to get. You can check this all on the website you're purchasing your cooler, your case from, or the company's website. So if I'm buying from Corsair, you go to their website. I should put a diagram it'll tell you. So I should have put a diagram here. Maybe I will in the after, or I'll put it in the comments or something. I don't know how you put it in the comments. So for example, certain sizes, I guess this would be a 360 millimeter, which is the most common size now in a normal ATX case. Certain sizes of radiator, according to how your PC case is built, will fit in certain areas, because you have to consider the thickness of the fans plus the radiator, and the length and the depth, I guess, the width of the window. So if this sits in your case, imagine your case is head on like this. See, this is your case. You're looking at it like how I have behind. You see there the thickness above? The thickness above, my radiator is actually here. So can this support? Yes. Okay. So you have to consider, again, orientation. So which ways can a certain size fit? Your case will say in a very helpful diagram, in the front mount, let's say this is the front mount. For you guys, it would be facing this way. This is the front mount. The front mount can fit up to 320 millimeters, for example. The top mount can fit up to 360 here, 360 here, or only 360 here. It's all about the design of the case, and each case is annoyingly different. So check that first. Check your case. Check, it will say very clearly, radiator up to this size supported. It will say very clearly, okay? So before you even decide, my point is, before you even decide what radiator size, check your case and your parts, because bigger motherboards and bigger, bigger case can fit in more orientations, correct or not? And clearance. So what I mean by clearance, again, I'm going to do this because I think it's more important to have a longer video, to be clear about the video, than to have any doubt. And I'm not going to do another video about this, so this is good. But you can ask questions on stream, you can drop comments. I like comments. So again, tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I understand. So, clearance. If your case is a certain size, your motherboard is a certain size, you have components on the motherboard. So the thicker this is, will it get in the way of other components? That's the question. Will it get in the way of other components or not? So clearance is important, clearance. Yeah? And you might put a fan in the front, the back, whatever, your whole setup. So you can go to the company website of or your PC. If your PC case is from Corsair, your PC case is NZXT, your PC case is what's the other one, the famous one? Fractal, the other one. Your PC case is Lian Li, like the ones I have. It shows a design and where you can put different things and the clearance. And the measurements are there if you want to be super exact. The measurements of this, it's 320 millimeters is almost a standard size. Some have an extra thing here, but this is the one standard size. So so if fans can be measured in terms of 120 millimeter, 140 millimeter fans, 3 of those would match a radiator, right? So for example, 3 120 millimeter fans would be a 360 radiator. Think about it that way. Or in my case, I have a huge case, 140 millimeter fans, 1, 2, 3 would go to 420 millimeter radiator. It's huge. Okay. Make sense? Okay. I'll cover the rest about orientation, but this is very important before you consider your case and what you're trying to build before you choose a radiator. So case first, motherboard case first, and CPU. Inflow versus exhaust. Decide where you want the radiator according to your case. I said this already. For example, and sorry, this is a deep subject. I need to cover this at some length. It's a long video, deep subject, and cover this. If you have your fans facing a certain way, it'll determine whether you have it as an intake, inflow, or an exhaust. So here you can see from the blades, I'll do a video on fans, but this is pulling the air through the radiator. So for example, if you have this on the top like this is pulling the hot air from the PC out. So this is an exhaust setup, exhaust in the radiator. And you have inflow coming from one side or another side or underneath, which is fine. I'll explain why it's good or bad later. I will get there. Don't worry, I will get there. Okay? So for example, if you put this at the front, I'm just checking if you can hear that. If you put this at the front, let's say, for example, going this way, it would be, sorry, for you guys, it would be going this way in the front of your PC. It would be pulling the air in, an intake into your PC, which would then be pushed out. Okay? So think about it. Think about how you want your, think about your airflow. How do you want your airflow? Do you want it going in, how I have it, like in, and then out the back, out the top and the back? Design, I've done this on stream, but I will do another one. Just, you know, think about it or draw it or whatever, if that's how you want it. I know it's or you can ask me to do it. Just message me. I'll do it for you. I don't mind. Message me. I'll do it for you. That will determine what radiator you get, really. I mean, the size, the shape, along with the PC case. The correct bracket for your processor and motherboard. This is so important. Most coolers come with most brackets now. Modern brackets and historical brackets. So if you split it between Intel and AMD to start with, do you have an Intel build or an AMD build? Because they have different brackets. So this one is designed for Intel, for example, again, to show you. Okay? But the bracket can be removed, you see? I'm gonna give an example here. I think it's pretty, is there a button to remove it? I don't know. Oh, yeah. Anyway, once you remove this top, you can remove the bracket, is basically what I'm saying, and change it. So they come with both, but be sure, check the cooler and make sure. Make sure your so this is how you do it. You pick your motherboard. It's the order of choice. Motherboard is the first choice. Motherboard and processor are the first choice. They have to come together. Graphics card, obviously, it can come after. Then there's more compatibility with graphics cards, actually, but it depends on the PCIe socket, whatever. But anyway, that's a different video. First, choose motherboard and processor. So if you're going for Intel, you will know, okay, I need a motherboard of a certain generation and a certain socket. So right now it would be, I guess, LGA. They have socket labels. They're usually LGA something for Intel. For AMD, it's AM5 right now because I built an AMD build, right? So that determines the motherboard you're getting. And then you can choose the size and if it's compatible. And then the RAM is also determined on that, the RAM efficiency. And most RAM can now be tweaked to work in most cases, but no. So that's it. Intel versus AMD, think about that. Think about that. And then your cooler should be able to work with both, but the power, this is where it comes to power. Older sockets, sorry, I said this already. Older sockets versus new sockets, socking battery. So if it's an old Intel processor, it's a different socket and therefore a different bracket. What does the bracket do? So I'll go back, sorry. The bracket, when you have your motherboard, the bracket will screw in from the back of the motherboard. So the motherboard is in between. So you'll have your motherboard. Let's just say this is a motherboard. And when you put your CPU is in the motherboard, your cooling block, the water block, the CPU, sits on top and it will be screwed in and connected through the motherboard, okay? So therefore the bracket needs to match. There's a cross one, there's a square one. AMD is more square, I believe. I might be wrong. Yes, I might be wrong. Yeah, it is. So make sure you have the right one. It's all sizing and measurement, honestly. And that will ensure you have correct contact and correct tightness of the actual cooler itself. Okay? Older socket versus new socket. So older sockets are different, as I said, even within Intel. So make sure that most coolers come with compatibility brackets that you can change. They're very fiddly to change, but you can change them. Okay? But the default is usually something like Intel, the most popular one. Installation, motherboard. See, now when I say installation, I mean, how do you install it? Do you install the motherboard? Do you put the motherboard into the PC case first? Do you screw it in first and then put the cooler on top? Do you put the motherboard outside first? So usually the order is this. Motherboard outside, flat, on an anti-static mat. Make sure there's no static in the way you can just research that. I can explain that in a different video because I'm not going to do it here. I need to control myself here. And then put the CPU carefully, obviously. There's installation videos for this. I'm not explaining, like, I know it's not the role of the video is to explain more to do with coolers. And then on this, you can then do the cooling bracket, etc. And then you can do your RAM first to make sure there's RAM, because RAM can, depending on how your pipes are, your tubing is, your RAM might, get in the way. It's usually okay. It's a tight fit though. And then you might put that into your PC case. So we speak about, is the motherboard out of the case first or in the case? I prefer in the case, that's me, because I believe if I do it out of the case, I believe carrying the motherboard with the cooler, see how heavy this is? Again, to show you. This is my opinion. Carrying the motherboard, imagine, I put the motherboard flat. I put the CPU in flat, the RAM, and then I hold this and balance this on the table somehow. And then I have this, and then I screw this into the flat motherboard, and then I lift the motherboard up with this into the PC case, screw it in. It's too much for me. I would rather motherboard, put it into the PC case, lay the PC case flat, and then stick this in, and then screw this into the case wherever I want to, orientation, the radiator. Because the radiator has to be screwed in to the side of the case, and this is on the mother, as we said. Okay? I'm getting a slideshow help warning. I think they think I'm stuck or something. Anyway, let's go. This is such a long video. I didn't realize I can talk so much about such a subject. Anyway, it's going to be long, guys. Sorry. Motherboard case. PC case upright or flat on the desk? I think flat on the desk. Flat. And install yourself facing down. Because looking down, install this way, flat. Not upright because of gravity. So if it's upright, if you screw it, it'll fall out of place. But if it's flat on the desk, so this is your PC case. So if your PC case is like this, so look at mine here, for example. Look at mine here. This is upright. Do not install like that. I think lay it flat carefully, removing all of the glass so there's no smashing of glass. Lay it flat. This is huge, so it's easy to build a huge case. That's why I like the big cases. But smaller case, same rule. Flat, so that when your motherboard is in there and it's flat, this is the motherboard there, you can place this cooling CPU block, the water block, the thing, and the pipes go, and then the radiator, you can hold it flat down and then you can screw it downwards with gravity working for you, not against you, if that makes sense. Gravity working for you, not against you. So an easier build is flat on disk. This is why I'm telling you, think installation. What is the order of installation? Which is what I told you, my opinion. Motherboard outside the case first, CPU into the motherboard, then RAM, if you want at this stage, you can. I think it's important. Then motherboard goes into the thing. But remember, you need to put remember, this is really important. The bracket that comes with your cooler, there is a piece that goes behind the motherboard sometimes, in Intel builds mostly, that goes behind the motherboard. So when you put the cooler in the other, it kind of holds the motherboard together. The motherboard sits in between two brackets. So make sure you have that before you put your motherboard into the PC case, is what I'm saying. Okay? You can ask me this in the comments. If you're confused, I'll cover it in the comments. Orientations. Vertical versus horizontal. I'll explain this reason why. There is a huge reason why. The positioning of the tubes, I'll explain this in the next scene. These are very important. The PC case positioning, okay? Which is more to do with the case of how, I forgot what that meant actually, why I typed that when you write the, but basically how the PC case affects the positioning. Now, this is the fun part. So again, take a break now, pause the video, 30-minute long video. You know, you might hate this. I hope it might keep you enthralled. I don't know. Here's where my shitty ass diagrams I will explain. Okay. Orientations. This is one orientation I'm going to explain. In this orientation, now try to follow me here. This blue part is the PC case. This is the motherboard. I'm saying it because I speak too quickly. Don't worry. I know you're not idiots. I'm saying it. This is the cooling block sitting on top of the CPU. There. I didn't label it, but this is the CPU. These are the tubes, and this is the radiator. Okay? So far, so good. So the radiator in this case is at the bottom. And then this is above, correct or not, and on the CPU. Yes? Does that match? Make sense? Well, the other way around, but does it make sense so far? This is on the CPU. The contact plate is on. You are the CPU in this case. You are the CPU. Okay? So the PC case, this is down here. This is obviously wrong. Very wrong. This is not new information. Every video you've watched will tell you the same thing. This is wrong. I've seen some bullshit TikToks or some video where they do it, and I'm like, well, who the fuck? This is just misinformation. Pardon my language. Sorry, I shouldn't say the F word. Pardon my language. Pardon my language, guys. Pardon my language. But yes, I probably won't cut it out because I can't be bothered, but wrong. Why is it wrong? Many reasons, but I will just cover this because it's the obvious point, I know, but I'll get it out the way. Wrong in all circumstances, in my opinion. Wrong in all circumstances. There is no circumstance where this makes sense. I can think of one circumstance, but no, it's wrong in all circumstances. This is why. I'm going to use the mouse here. Any trapped air. So, first there's a principle here. Air. How does air work? Air, as you know, air bubbles rise above liquid. When you have a fish tank, air sits at the top. When you have bubbles and you're underwater scuba diving, your bubbles rise to the top. Yes? They rise up. Sorry. The snorkeling, air rises above water because of density. Okay? So, oxygen, carbon dioxide, any air. So, any trapped air, and I'll explain the difference. There is factory trapped air and over time. So, because of factory defects, it's not that much. Your radiator block, your whole cooler might come with trapped air. It happens. So imagine you fill the whole thing with liquid, the whole flow, the whole piping that goes inside and in here, but there will always be a miss. Like when these things are filling, they're like machine filling, you know, each thing, and then sealing it and blah, 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 you know, the air will, there might be some air trapped. So trapped air will always, according to physics, will always rise to the highest point. So in this case, if your radiator is below, the trapped air will rise into the CPU block, stopping the CPU from being cooled. This is wrong in both orientations. Remember, go back to what we said. Where is the motor? Yes? So let's use this example. In the pump motor, if this is underneath, okay, I haven't done it, but sorry. If this is underneath, the air will always go up to this block. Same with this, and it doesn't matter. Now, what I would say is this. I would say, because of this, your CPU will not have liquid on it and not have a coolant will not be in the CPU block. Therefore, your CPU will overheat and will shut down and throttle and stop working. Okay? So, and this will damage your CPU over time. So this is wrong in all cases. Air will be trapped in here. Air will be trapped. Yes? Causing damage to this, whatever. Your motor, if it's here, whatever, will also be damaged. Because if the motor is here, your motor will be fine because there's liquid being pumped. But if motor is here, in most cases, actually, if the motor is here, the motor will pump the liquid up. It will go in and out, and the air might be pumped through. But eventually, it will damage because there will be a point here where the air is rising and it will get trapped at the top. So the rule is, think about the highest point of the circuit. That's where the air will go. This is the high. So your circuit is this. Look. This is your circuit, okay? Oh, this way, actually. This is your circuit. Think this is your circuit, okay? Yep, sorry, but this is your circuit. The blub blub is like a bubble noise. So the air will always reach the highest point of the circuit and the liquid will pass, usually. Unless the pump is super strong, but that doesn't really happen. It's not like a pump, you know what's going on. Okay, so, and it will accumulate at the CPU water block, the air, damaging it over time and reducing your cooling performance. First, the truth is in testing, first year, second year, you might not notice, but you'll hear the sound of bubbling and then eventually, bam, it'll break. Damaging it. Reducing lifespan of your components, reducing lifespan of this, of that, of everything, because the air gets trapped, then evaporation, heat causes more evaporation causes more air causes... Okay. The pump motor will break eventually if it's here. If it's here, it might not break as soon because it's here, the air, imagine. In this case, if the pump is here, which is in most cases, most modern, as I told you, most modern coolers, the motor is here. The motor is pumping air. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And that will cause it to the motor to break. And you'll hear the break. This orientation should never be used. Okay? Now on to orientations that actually matter. I should have hidden all this, but first one we'll do is this one. This I would call just horizontal with the radiator at the top. Okay, the top. Yeah, radiator at the top. So radiator, again, this is a long video, 38 minutes. Radiator at the top. So with the radiator at the top, you see here, I've drawn this. I'll explain. Again, PC case, motherboard, radiator, CPU water block, tubes, and air. This is air, okay? So in this case, if air builds up, which it will build up over, the longer you use it, the more heat the air will evaporate. Sorry, the liquid will evaporate, causing more air buildup. The game is in this, the overall message of the game of this is minimize the air's impact on the flow, on the circuit, on the flow. And then you can keep it lasting longer and you will have no problem. You might hear some bubbling, but it's irrelevant. So this orientation is widely seen as the safest orientation. I'll explain why. Horizontal, top orientation, let's call it. This is where the radiator sits on top. So here, best for longevity, as I told you, because the air sits far away from the CPU water block, far away from the motor that's here. And as I explained, if the motor is here, you have a different problem. And I'll explain it. This is where the complication works. This is where I was trying to tell you about this story comes in. But let's go with the motor is here, which is most cases. So again, go back slides. If you don't know what I'm saying, go back slides. The pump motor, where is it? We are going with this, the most popular one. The pump motor is in the CPU, but there are different. This is where the story gets interesting. But we're going for pump motor is in the CPU block. Okay, wrong. As I said, very wrong here. So air is not in the motor. Okay, air is spread in a thin layer and away from the tubes at the top, which is why the air does not impact. So the liquid goes round, The air sits at the top, never moves, because as it pumps, it's just, imagine you're blowing through a straw. But imagine it keeps going through the straw. The air will sit on the top if there's not enough liquid to go through. Okay? Physics, again. The second one, which I've used in this build, you see in this build, the one behind me. Vertical. Now, this is slightly higher temps. I'll explain exhaust fan, what that means, okay? But this is slightly higher temps, but better longevity. When I say slightly higher temps, don't get confused. I'm talking about 1-2 degrees average degree difference of CPU temp. This is what I'm saying. And I'll explain why later. But vertical setup. So this is vertical, okay? Like a tower. Vertical setup, slightly cooler temps. Again, 1 to 2 degrees difference on average usually for people. Intake, I'll explain its intake. Tubes are at the top here. You see? That's the difference. I'm going to move my camera again. But that's the difference between this and this. You see, tubes are on the top. Whereas here, tubes are in... See, tubes here in the bottom, tubes here in the top. Tubes here in the bottom. These are both vertical. But that's the difference, okay? So, tubes at the top, good longevity, because the air sits here. The air sits here, and as it increases, it will increase, but it will still not affect the flow, okay? And it's not in the motor, okay? So the longevity is still good, okay? Air is not in the water block, as I said, not in the motor, but it can accumulate near the top of the tubes. So you might hear some bubbling after 3 or 4 or 5 years, depending on how much air, but it's not that bad, okay? Here, now the text is hidden, so I will hide my camera, sorry. You lose my beautiful face. Vertical, again, this is also vertical, slightly cooler temps. Intake, again, I'll explain why. Tubes at the bottom. Air is not in the CPU water block and is completely away from the tubes, which is why I like this orientation. Any air that builds up sits at the top. So liquid is pump, the pump is here. Pump, 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 pump. No air. How this works, because of physics, I'll explain now. Again, now I'll explain where is the motor thing, okay? I'll explain that. Don't worry, but let's go to the motor. Where is the motor? Now I'm adding what we would like to call, I'm adding a variable into the mix. The variable being, where is the motor? Where is it? So go back to the first page. If the motor, remember we have 3 motor options, but there's one, the most popular one, which now they got rid of the others. Thank God, I think so in most cases, but check. I'm telling you, check, huh? And write to me if you need me to check. Which is why I have this one, part of the story. This one is the rare case where the motor is in the radiator, not in here, which we want it in here, okay? So, 3 options. Motor is either in the CPU block, in the radiator, which we don't, or in the pipes, which I've never seen. So, where is your motor? If it is here, you want the high, I'll explain the highest point thing. You need to think, where is the air? Is it in the motor or not? No, it's not. But if the motor is here, where is the air? Could be in the motor here. See the point? Around the motor. See the point? You see the point? That's the variable. Again, one more time. Where is the motor? So, I will explain my cousin's case clearly now. And now this is a perfect segue. My cousin's case. I'll tell you the story. So, sorry, I moved my camera. I don't know why. Temperature started to... I did the build in the new PC. Temperature was rising after 2 minutes of operation to 100 degrees C. With her old... This is her old cooler. It turns out the idiots who built her PC, they used the right way, you'd say the right orientation, the best for longevity, but they didn't effing pay attention to where the motor is. And this is never mentioned in videos. Not never, rarely mentioned in all the videos I've watched. All of these, God bless Jay's 2 cents, God bless all the people I watch. Again, it's not just him, there's so many, I've watched so many. But he does mention a separate video, I think. But in the videos, when you do orientation, where is your motor? Where is it? So I was baffled. I'm like, hang on. Why is the cooling not working? Why is it not in the new case? In the new I had everything moved to the new case. Everything for her, my cousin. And her old cooler is her old cooler. So it turned out for 6 years, the idiot who built the PC, who's supposed to be a professional, see, what is a professional is the question. The motor is here, look at it. And the whole time, the air sat in the motor, causing a noise that would damage the motor over time, and more air and more evaporation. So over time, the motor became so damaged, it was unable to pump coolant through. So the temperature would rise in the coolant here. The coolant would not move. Motor was damaged. Made every time you switched on, there was a whirring noise, and CPU got damaged. I don't even know if the CPU is balanced. I fixed it. I replaced it with a new cooler where the pump was here. Cheap. It wasn't that expensive. Arctic freezer. It's very like deep cool. Affordable company. Maybe it will last fight, whatever. And I got one where the pump is here. Same orientation, like this. But the pump is far away from the air, the highest point. Basically, the mistake was in his build, this idiot, I'm sorry, I get so angry about this stuff. It's not about the money, it's just annoying. I don't like it when friends or family get affected by this. I get very passionate, as you can tell. This is the part I've been waiting to tell you. I love solving everything. Like this is a puzzle to me. I'm a puzzle slut. I like to call myself a puzzle sleuth. I love puzzles. So this is like a jigsaw for me, like a puzzle. I solved the puzzle. The puzzle was the sound coming from here was because the motor is up and broken. You can hear it here. The motor is broken. I opened this and I checked. It's broken because for years it sat like this for 6+ years in my cousin's PC, damaging performance, throttling her performance, which affected the gaming actually. That's why the gaming suddenly dropped, because air was trapped here, didn't have anywhere to go, the highest point of the flow. Air was sat in the motor, causing this noise, and the motor was burning out and overworking. Okay? So that's what happened in my cousin's PC, and that happened in a rare case where the motor is not where they put it now. And the guy who built the PC picked a random AIO cooler, didn't give a crap, and didn't look at where the motor was. Did not care whatsoever. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Sorry, I'm angry, but I'm a funny guy. I'm not angry all the time. I'm just grumpy about this. I promise you, I'm not angry. I'm not grumpy all the time. I'm just grumpy about this. That's all. Okay. So back to the slideshow. Where is your motor? So in most cases, your motor will be here, and this configuration will be fine. This will be fine in most cases. Again, to reiterate, but if the motor is in a weird position, be careful and follow the rules of this, and write to me if you're ever worried. Really, type. I'm available on Discord, Twitch. Get my Discord. You can DM me. You can find it on my Twitch. Ask me if you want my Discord. Add me. Any questions you have, I'll anything you want. I might reply later because I'm getting so busy. But this is I love this. This is my passion. So this is a guy who knows nothing, who knows less to nothing. But it's physics, bro. It's physics. So the air sits on top here and the motor is here. Fine, no problem. Longevity is good, but where is the motor? Why was the longevity shit in my cousin's build, pardon language, is because the motor was above. In that case, you want the motor to be at the lowest point of the circuit. Make sense? Not lowest, but you want, not lowest, you would probably want. Now the question you might ask me is, okay, if the motor is here, where do I put it? That's an important question. I hope you don't buy a cooler with a motor here, but if you do, then think about it. Think. If the motor is in the radiator. So in this case, just to conclude, this is the last time I will mention this, but this is important. If the motor is here, this specific unit, how should he have installed it? Or in most cases won't support that because the tubes like this. I hate to say it, but because the air would then sit on top, the motor would be here, air would rise to here, and the motor would push the liquid through. The air might still, but no, it'll sit at the top, don't worry. Unless it's been years and it's gone. But the safest one would be for him, motor down, but this still should be the lowest because you don't want air to get trapped here. Fuck that. Sorry, pardon my language. Damn that. This is gonna get deep, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, this is not good. But my point being, remember, motor is here. The air needs to be, I think the best is still here because the air will get up here and not even touching the motor. And the CPU would be here. CPU, not above, remember, like that, as long as this is up, okay? So if the front of your case would be this way, because it's reversed, the front is this way. Okay. So air would go up here. Liquid would be here because air is higher. Where is the highest point? Physics. Hot air balloon. Air, whatever. Not hot air, but air. So, like this. So if you look at my case, the pipes are up here. The air is at the top. The liquid goes through. The motor is in the CPU where it should be. Sorry, again, this is my opinion. It's just an opinion. I'm not here to comment on MSI or whoever built this stuff. Now they stopped doing this, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why. And then the other one, if the motor was in the tube, which I told you an option, but that's the same rules apply. Make sure if the tube was up here, The air would stick in the motor and you'd destroy your system. So in that case, you'd have to push the tubes down or make sure the air doesn't, you know, like this, or the tube here in the motor here. So think about it. Where is the highest point? Where will the air accumulate? Physics, okay? It's not too, sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just annoying when people don't check. Now, again, highest point, okay, now question time. Where is the highest point of the circuit? Tell me. Here. That's where I drew it. Test time. Highest point of the circuit, here. Or flow, let's call it flow. Circuit's more electrical. Not here, here. Highest point, okay? Now, next one, I will explain airflow. Because this is not really, it's more preference and what you like. When I said one is slightly cooler temps, I'll explain why. In this case, with why I choose the other options, even though longevity is slightly better here, I will say. If, again, we're going back to the motor is here in a normal setup. We're ignoring this. This doesn't exist. You chose not to buy this. You chose to buy from a normal brand. MSI, I'm sorry, I have no problem with you, but you go back to normal. You're buying a cooler like what I have, okay? The motor is in the CPU water block on top of the CPU. The motor is here, pumping out. Fair? So in this case, warm air exhausts through the slightly high. Think about this. Again, I will show you. I should have done the arrows afterwards, but I'm just going to show you now. In this, ignore the writing. In this case, warm air. I'll explain why. So my first thing is, warm air exhausts through your radiator. Okay, so imagine your radiator is at the top because heat rises. And in this setup, you have heat from your motherboard, CPU, GPU is here, everything, hard drives, blah, 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 NVMe, all the heat rises up and gets pushed through unless you change it somehow and you want it coming out the bottom and all this rubbish, and you can do it. So technically, you would be having warm air, unless you change the direction of the fans, which you can, like by unscrewing them and flipping them, you would have warm air going through the radiator, and the cooling of the liquid would be slightly affected because warm air is going through the radiator where the liquid is surrounding, the coolant. So therefore, your coolant would be a slightly higher temp and your CPU temp would be slightly higher. Again, it's a preference. I'm telling you, this is my opinion. Think about resistance of the radiator as well. So in a case, radiator adds resistance to the fans. So if you have fans, this will be another video, but I'll explain that in another video. Now, in this setup, the one I have over here, cool, fresh air is being pulled through because, again, hot air is going up. So far you feel me? So then the coolant, the liquid coolant, is a slightly lower temp. Here, and I'll remove my video. Sorry, I'm getting very passionate and angry about this. I don't know if this is annoying you guys. Same thing, cool, fresh air. It's coming through, air rises to the top, hot air far away from the pump motor. But where is the motor again? I keep mentioning this. Where is your motor? If the motor is here, then this is completely wrong. But you see my point. In where the motor is in the CPU block, again, where is the airflow? Where is it? Where is it? Tell me, how did you arrange your airflow? Here, I put it so that the fans are pulling hot air out. This is good for longevity, but worse for temps. This is good for temps, but maybe slightly worse for longevity, but it's okay. So cold, fresh air is coming through. Here, stale, hot air is going out. I say stale. Here, fresh air is coming through. That's it. That's all I will say on the matter of... So when you consider... My point is, when you consider your positioning, think about what is it you want, how is your air flowing, what is it you're looking for, and that's that. Warning signs. Sorry, there's a long video, but we're getting there. An hour-long video. Shit, there's a lot of content, guys. Warning signs. Warning signs. If you're watching an hour of this, I can't imagine you would. Warning signs. Warning signs. So, what are the warning signs? Warning signs for me are like, when something does go wrong, how do you know? So gargling sounds. If you hear gargling noises, bubbling, trapped air evaporation, which cannot always be a bad thing, but think about where it is. It could be bad tube material. I don't know about this, but if you know about biology and physics, there's osmosis, which is how vapor can pass through, or air can pass through small porous things like your skin, for example. How do things pass through your skin? Even sweat or things like this. So osmosis, or things like, not osmosis, two things next to each other, and diffusion of cold, hot air. Diffusion, they call it, from room to room. Pressure causing diffusion and things. So type of porous material. Now materials are very good in most companies, but I don't know about this one. So it means that more liquid could evaporate, basically in a worse material. Whereas in a good material, there'll be more condensation as opposed to evaporation, causing less air buildup, if that makes sense. Okay? So think about it this way. Sorry if the music is loud, actually, but think about it this way. Trapped air could be causing gargling. Evaporation over time could create more trapped air, and the tube material could influence that. So gargling sounds, bubbling sounds, buzzing. Buzzing is more akin to fan damage or motor damage. Is there motor damage? Could the motor have come defective? You would want to stop your CPU being damaged before it happens. So if motor damage is there, you hear a motor noise, check it out, ask someone, send it for RMA. I don't want to worry you, but, you know, think about it. CPU temps. The easiest sign is the moment you install your layout, you check your temps with one of the temp monitoring software, HW Info, Hardware Monitor, HW Monitor, any of these things, and do it under load. So Cinebench test it, whatever it is. Now under full load to make sure your CPU is really, you know, giving its max wattage. Now, I would say that the problem with this is that you will not discover some problems until it's too late. So orientation is important. The warning signs will rarely show themselves until a year, 2 years later. So I'd rather you get your orientation correct, how you want your thing correct, your flow correct, and then this will not happen, hopefully. Which includes, next point, how you paste. Most coolers, which is true, come with a good quality paste, most good quality paste, on the actual plate pre-installed, and it's covered with plastic. You remove the plastic, so that's fine. Don't worry about paste. It's only cases where you're repasting, where you're reinstalling. So in this case, I would say make sure that you remove the plastic and install without moving it around so the paste doesn't spread. The thermal paste, just like I should have said, sits between the CPU and your motherboard and the contact plate of the CPU water block. Okay, the metal copper, it's copper, so it's conductivity. So the paste conducts a lot of the heat and makes sure to dissipate the heat. Okay, so good paste is important. Most coolers come to paste. Now, this includes how you screw your bracket and screws. The right bracket, as we said, we covered this already. The right bracket, how tight you screw it. I don't want to worry you, but you don't need to over screw it. Just screw it evenly. So if your bracket has 4 screws, 4 points. Your bracket sits on top of the CPU. 4 points. Screw the corner to corner method. You know, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit, and then balance it. You know, so, and then you don't need to go above the full tighten. Just full tighten. Stop. Not loose, not tight. You want good contact. Your CPU on your motherboard and your cooling plate with the thermal paste. You want good contact. Good contact. This is more of a feeling thing. I can't really explain. I can do it myself, but sometimes I doubt my own work. But this is, again, new guy. Pump. This is the last thing, which is another warning sign. It's more advice. On your motherboard, you will notice there are multiple. I'm going to put my mic here again so I get used to speaking directly. There are multiple. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Multiple sockets on the motherboard for fans. So you can have so many fans. You can probably power a fan in your room with it. I don't know if it's probably not. So you want to make sure that your pump, your AOI system, is plugged into the correct socket on your motherboard. So I wasn't going to cover this, but it's important actually. So they're labeled if you look carefully. So this one says CPU fan 2 AOI pump. It says it there. So I have my AOI pump wire top there plugged into the AOI pump. This is so that your system and your BIOS recognizes which device, which pump, which motor is the right thing there, is which for which device. So my pump, it knows the liquid, it's monitoring the liquid speed, the pump speed, and then it's monitoring the case fans. There's some which are labeled case fans. So CPU is a safe one, but most cases you want to go for pump, which is actually labeled, in my case, AIO, sorry, I keep saying AOI, dyslexia, I don't have dyslexia, but AIO underscore pump versus CPU. So CPU fan sockets are what used to happen, where basically it tells your CPU, if my CPU heats up, I have these fans that are plugged into the fan sockets that will react to the temp. That's it. It's the BIOS telling itself, we need to know which fans we need to increase the speed or the wattage. I will cover that. That's a whole nother video. Is it power versus speed? There's a whole thing. I'll explain that. But so temp goes up. BIOS says, oh shit, things are getting hot. Pardon my language. Let's increase the speed. And they increase the power to the fans, pulling in more fresh air, so when you game, you'll notice the fans getting louder. That's the BIOS and the motherboard, a well-built PC, reacting to the... Same with the liquid. The pump fan reacts at a certain speed by pumping coolant. This is a whole nother debate. Is that how fast it should be pumping? I would love, please, in the comments, I would love to debate this, but I don't have time. The video is already an hour long. So, pump speed, pump socket, make sure the AIO pump is plugged in, and all most modern motherboards will have this. It's not, you don't need to worry. And you will find it somewhere close by the pump. So, because the wire is very short, actually. So it's plugged in there directly. Okay, that's that. CPU fan sockets on the motherboard itself for the power. This is for the power. This is the power plugs. Power. BIOS config. This is another thing. So, this is not a warning sign. This is again more general advice. BIOS software. So, there are ways to control the speed of there's software that comes with your cooler. So I used to have an NZXT cooler, which I put into my other cousin's PC. And that monitored everything by itself. And you can configure everything by itself. The levels, the graph, as to how you want the pump to react according to temps, the whole thing. You can tune it all yourself as to what you like. There's recommended ones, which I would stick with. If you don't know, I'd stick with recommended ones. So, but if you don't want bloatware on your system, extra software bullshit, your BIOS can control it all by itself. In your BIOS, when you launch and you press delete and you open your BIOS, I wouldn't mess with the fan control, but in the fan control, you can tell your PC, when my temp reaches this certain thing, increase the percentage power operation of my fans to this percent, 50%, 25%, so you don't have it loud when nothing's happening, 100%. So you can do it all according to, and there is a set curve on the graph to certain. So that's you can do it in the BIOS, you can do it in the software. The software can override the BIOS. The BIOS is the base one that will always run from the moment you start your PC, no matter what happens. Finally, my conclusion and recommendations. Conclusion recommendation is my favorite orientation versus the PC case. So as I said, if your PC case supports it, I told you my favorite. Vertical, with the tubes underneath, and the highest point being the top of the radiator. Because I want fresh air coming through my PC. I have the money, thankfully, and I'm saying this in a way, to replace my cooler if it doesn't last 6 years. I'm gonna get a new PC every 5, because it's my hobby. I love it. I'm gonna get a new PC every 5 years minimum, or 4 years. It sounds pretty stupid. This one I built the other month. I know that sounds horrible. I might move my graphics card to the new PC, but I like changing my motherboard or processor. I don't know. It's my hobby. I like it. I like doing this. That's why I'm doing these videos. So my personal case is, if money is no object, yes, I would do it that way. And the air will not get in the way of the motor and buy the motor standard in the CPU block. So that would be, sorry to do this, my favorite would be this one, ideally, which I have it in my streaming setup here. This one, ideally, is my favorite. This one, okay? But in this case, the tubes, the wires are not long enough. Actually, I tried. They cannot go down, so I had to put it up because the tubes have to be long enough, and most tubes are not long enough. So this is why I went for this one. But my favorite is this one. But the best, if the motor is in the correct place for longevity, as I told you, money-wise, is this. Okay, so I explained that. Ask me again and I'll tell you again. Choose the right brand. That's my second conclusion recommendation. I don't mind MSI, but they are not known for coolers, even though they probably make money on them. There are so many good brands. I won't recommend them here, but if you want, message me. I will tell you my experience with every brand. I have all the different brands I've used. I have Arctic for this one. Arctic is very well known. Price versus the brand. There are some very cheap brands that are very good. If you care about money. White colors can be more expensive, depends on supply and demand. That's it. A motor should be in the CPU block. The modern, I keep repeating this. I'm repeating it again. Make sure the motor is in. Most cases it is, but I never see it mentioned. I rarely see it mentioned. I should correct myself. Match your PC case and radiator size. Again, same conclusion. Before you choose your radiator, make sure your PC case can support it. And it's the basis of how powerful your CPU is as to how much cooling it needs, how much heat it will generate. Yes, obvious point, but people don't think about it that much. Do you need a huge cooler with so much liquid, huge radiator? Because my processor is ridiculous. I'm gonna do the video explaining every part that I bought and why. It'll cover this. But make sure you match the size of your PC case with the orientation you want. It's very fun. This is not, it might sound complicated, but it's fun. It's like a puzzle. It's like building Lego. It's so fun. PC building has become so much easier now since thank God I didn't have to do it in the old days, but I was blowing up PCs before you're born, God forbid. You know what I mean? Think about lifespan. 5 to 7 years is quite typical, I would say. Younger than that is a bit, shouldn't be less than 5 years. 5 plus, 5 to 7. So I'm not entirely sure. Depends on the brand, depends on but 5 to 7 years, as long as your motor does not have air trapped in it. Okay? Thank you. Thank God the video's there. I'll do extra credit for you at the end of it. Thank you so much. And please make sure to subscribe to my Twitch TV. This is what I look like on most days. Please. And you can either stare at this or I will give you extra bonus footage. Now, bonus footage for those who have reached the end. This is important, actually. I don't know why it should be bonus. It should have been in the video, but bonus footage. In most builds, when you are building, when you've completed or before you screw everything in, if there is air trapped, sometimes, then this is the bonus footage, sometimes you need to give it a little wiggle. You can hear the liquid, yeah? Sorry, my camera keeps getting blocked by this. I don't know why. You can hear the liquid, yeah? Listen. You can't. Anyway. The liquid is here. The air is bubbling is here. So you might need to, just like in a tube or in a something, you might need to shake it around to move the air to the optimal point. Especially if you're moving from one orientation to the next, the air will need to be moved around. Does that make sense? If not, it will move by itself over time, naturally in the flow. This is the bonus. Bonus. I'm going to test you on the bonus. So make sure when I ask you in the comment and you don't listen, if you comment something and I write, I covered it at this point or I covered it at this minute, don't look at me and be like, no, watch the video. It's 1 hour. Focus. Enough of this TikTok rubbish generation where you don't focus. Focus. I can't focus. So focus. So you might need to move it around so the air rises to the top of the flow circuit or the flow. There you go. Bonus. Please subscribe. Thank you for being here. Thank you for an hour of your time. It is very valuable and I appreciate it. Wish you all the best. Bye bye. I love you all.